German-born physicist who developed the special and general theories of relativity and won the Nobel Prizes for the physics in 1921 for the explanation of the photoelectric effect. Einstein is generally considered the most influential physicist of the 20th century. Einstein's parents are secular, middle-class Jews. His father, Hermann Einstein, was originally a featherbed salesman and later ran an electrochemical factory with moderate success. His mother, the former Pauline Koch, ran the family household. He had one sister, Maja, born 2 years after Albert. Einstein would write that two wonders deeply affected his early years. The first was his encounter with a compass at age 5. He was mystified and invisible forces could deflect the needle. This would lead to a lifelong fascination with invisible forces. The second wonder came at age 12 when he discovered a book of geometry which he devoured, calling it his scared little geometry book. Einstein became deeply religious at age 12, even composing several songs in praise of God and chanting religious songs on the way at school. This began to change, however, after he read science books and contradicted his religious beliefs. This challenge to established authority left a deep and lasting impression. At the Luitpold Gymnasium, Einstein often felt out of place and victimized by a Prussian-style educational system that seemed to stifle originality and creativity. One teacher even told him that he would never amount to anything. Yet another important influence on Einstein was a young medical student, Max Talmud, who often had dinner at the Einstein home. Talmud became an informal tutor, introducing Einstein to higher mathematics and philosophy. A pivotal turning point occurred when Einstein was 16. Talmud had earlier introduced him to a children's science series by Aaron Bernstein, Nature Scientific Volvishire, in which the author imagined riding alongside electricity that was traveling inside the telegraph wire. Einstein then asked himself the question that would dominate his thinking for the next 10 years. What would a light beam look like if you could run alongside it? If light were a wave, then the light beam should appear stationary like a frozen wave. Even as a child, though, he knew that stationary light wave had never been seen, so there was a paradox. Einstein also wrote his first scientific paper at that time. Einstein's education was disrupted by his further repeated failures at business. In 1894, after his company failed to get an important contract to electrify the city of Munich, Hermann Einstein moved to Milan, Italy, to work with a relative. Einstein was left at a boarding house in Munich and expected to finish his education. Along miserable and repelled by the looming prospect of military duty when he turned 16, Einstein ran away 6 months later and landed on the doorstep of his surprised parents. His parents realized that enormous problems that he faced as a school dropout and draft dogger with no employable skills. His prospects did not look promising. Fortunately, Einstein would apply directly to the Ingenieuses Polytechnic schedule in Zurich without the equivalent of a high school diploma if he passed its stiff entrance examinations. His marks showed that he excelled in mathematics and physics, but he failed in French, chemistry, and biology. Because of his exceptional math scores, he was allowed into the Polytechnic on the condition that he first finish his formal schooling. He went to a special high school run by Jos Winteler in Aarau, Switzerland, and graduated in 1896. He also renounced his German citizenship at that time. He became lifelong friends with the Winteler family, with whom he had been boarding. Einstein would recall that his years in Zurich were some of the happiest years of his life. He met many students who would become loyal friends such as Markel Grossman, a mathematical, and Brezo, with whom he enjoyed lengthy conversation about space and time. He also met his future wife, Melivia Maric, a fellow physics student from Serbia. After graduation in 1900, Einstein faced one of the greatest crises on his life. Because he studied advanced subjects on his own, he often cut classes. This earned him the animosity of some professors, especially Heinrich Weber. Unfortunately, Einstein asked Weber for a letter of recommendation. Einstein was subsequently turned down for every academic position that he applied to. He later wrote, "I would have found long ago if Weber had not played a dishonest game with me." Meanwhile, Einstein's relationships with Marek deepened, but his parents vehemently opposed the relationship. His mother especially objected to her Serbian background. Einstein defied his parents, however, and he and Marek even had a child, Lizard, in January 1902, whose fate is unknown. In 1902, Einstein reached perhaps that lowest point in his life. He could not marry Marek and support a family without a job, and his father's business went bankrupt. Desperate and unemployed, Einstein took lowly jobs tutoring children, but he was fired from even these jobs. The turning point came later that year, when the father of his lifelong friend, Markel Grossman, he able to recommended him for a position as a clerk in the Swiss patent office in Bern. About that, Einstein's father became seriously ill and just before he died, gave his blessing for his son to marry Marek. For years, Einstein would experience in rumor sadness, remembering that his father had died thinking him a failure.